The grand chamber of the Galactic Council stretched so far that its ceiling disappeared into artificial clouds. Da-Hyun Kim stood alone at the center of the speaking platform, surrounded by representatives from 847 different species. Some floated in tanks of liquid. Others perched on crystalline structures. A few existed only as clouds of glowing particles contained in force fields. Do-Hyun looked small compared to the massive chamber, but he stood straight in his simple black suit. His face showed no emotion as the council speaker, a being that looked like a walking tree with too many branches. Finished reading the ultimatum. The human species will surrender control of all colonies beyond the orbit of Mars, the speaker announced. You will accept council observers on Earth itself. You will submit all military designs for approval. These terms are final. You have one standard cycle to comply. Laughter rippled through the chamber. Not human laughter, but the sounds of 800 alien species expressing amusement. The insect-like Kyrix clicked their mandibles together. The blob-shaped Volmari changed colors rapidly, their version of giggling. Even the dignified Kresh, who looked like 7-foot-tall lizards in ornate armor, allowed themselves small hisses of satisfaction. Humans had only joined the galactic community 90 years ago. They were babies, primitives. They should be grateful the council was offering protection, instead of simply taking what they wanted. High above in the observation deck, Mireille Choi gripped the railing. She had worked with Ambassador Do-Hyun for 5 years. She knew him better than anyone else in the diplomatic corps. Right now, watching him stand so still and quiet, she felt afraid. Not of the council, of what Do-Hyun was about to do. We reject your terms, Do-Hyun said. His voice was calm and clear, amplified by the chamber's technology so every being could hear him perfectly. The laughter stopped. Confused murmurs replaced it. The speaker leaned forward, branches creaking. You misunderstand, human. This is not a negotiation. This is an ultimatum. Accept or face complete economic isolation. No trade, no technology sharing. Your species will be alone in the galaxy. I understand perfectly, Do-Hyun replied. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a data chip. He held it up for all to see. This chip contains humanity's formal response to your ultimatum, filed according to Council Charter, Section 7, Subsection 43. Mireille felt her stomach drop. She knew that section. Everyone in the diplomatic corps knew it, but no species had invoked it in over 4,000 years. As of this moment, Do-Hyun continued, the Human Systems Alliance formally declares a state of war against the Galactic Council and all its member species. Silence. Complete, total silence. 847 species stopped moving, stopped making sounds, stopped everything. For 5 full seconds, nobody reacted. Then the chamber exploded with noise. Aliens were shouting in 1,000 languages. Some were still laughing, thinking this was a joke. Others demanded security remove the insane human. A few were already accessing their data systems, checking to see if what Do-Hyun claimed was even possible. Counselor Vixara of the ancient Ral species sat in her elevated seat, her silver skin glowing softly. She did not laugh. She did not shout. She simply watched the human ambassador with eyes that had seen 10,000 years of council history. Silence. The speaker commanded, and the chamber's systems enforced it, dampening all sound except the speaker's voice. Human, you cannot be serious. Your species has 47 warships. The council commands over 100,000. Your technology is centuries behind ours. Your people occupy a single star system. This is madness. Perhaps, Do-Hyun agreed. He placed the data chip on the platform's upload terminal. Information began flooding into the council systems. But it is legal madness. We have filed all proper declarations. We have listed our grievances according to protocol. We have given you the required notice period of. He checked his wrist display. Approximately 3 minutes ago, as our clock synchronized with the moment I began speaking. Dolphin, the crash security director, was already reading through the documents on his personal display. His yellow eyes widened. He is correct, Dolphin announced to the nearby counselors. Every requirement has been met. By the council's own laws, a state of war now exists. More chaos erupted. Species began arguing with each other. Some demanded immediate military action. Others called for Do-hyun's arrest. A few, the wiser ones, started asking why any species would do something so suicidal. "You will all die," said Rixnall of the Kyrix, his translated voice sharp with anger. "Your planets will burn. Your colonies will be dust. Surrender now, and perhaps we will show mercy." Do-hyun smiled for the first time. It was not a happy smile. "We are human. We do not surrender. We do not kneel. We do not bow. You wanted to put chains on us and call it protection. We choose war instead." He turned and began walking toward the exit. Every camera in the chamber followed him. Billions of beings across the galaxy were watching this transmission, unable to believe what they were seeing. "You doom your species," the speaker shouted after him. Do-hyun stopped at the doorway and looked back. "Maybe, but we will make you remember us. Every single one of you will learn what it means to fight humans. You will learn why we survived ice ages and plagues and wars with each other. You will learn that technology means nothing compared to will." He walked out. Myri ran to catch up with him in the corridor outside. "Sir, what have you done? This is insane. They will destroy us." Do-hyun kept walking, his face now showing emotion. He looked tired but determined. "Myri, they were always going to try to control us. Better to fight now, on our terms, than wait until they have complete control. Besides," he smiled again, "they think this is about warships and technology. What else could it be about? It is about will. It is about 8 billion angry humans who just learned that the galaxy thinks we are slaves to be managed. Do you know what happens when you give humans a common enemy?" He did not wait for her answer. "We stop fighting each other and focus everything on that enemy. The Council just unified humanity in a way nothing else could." They reached their private shuttle. As they boarded, Myri looked back at the Council building, where lights were flashing and alarms were probably sounding. "They will send their fleets," she whispered. "Yes," Do-hyun agreed. "And we will teach them that humans do not fight fair. We fight to win." The shuttle departed, carrying them back toward human space. Behind them, the Galactic Council scrambled to respond to something they had never imagined possible. A single species, small and weak by their standards, had just declared war on the entire galaxy. Councill. Our Vixara watched the shuttle disappear on her monitor. Unlike her colleagues, she was not angry or amused. She was afraid. She had studied Earth's history. She had read their literature, watched their entertainment, analyzed their wars. She knew something the others did not. Humans were very, very good at war. And the Council had just given them a reason to show it. Tholvin stood in the Council Security Center, staring at the holographic display that showed Earth's military capabilities. The numbers were almost insulting in their weakness. 47 warships, most of them converted mining vessels with weapons bolted onto the hull. 3 orbital defense platforms around Earth. A handful of fighter craft scattered across their colonies on Mars and the moons of Jupiter. "This will take less than a month," said Commander Nestrak, a 4-armed warrior from the Kelith species. "Perhaps 2 weeks if we want to minimize damage to their infrastructure. They cannot even reach most of our territory. Their fastest ships would take years to cross the distances we travel in days." Tholvin should have agreed. The data supported that conclusion. But something bothered him like an itch he could not scratch. He kept thinking about the human ambassador's face, the complete confidence in Do-hyun's eyes when he declared war. "Pull up their historical military records," Thulvin ordered. "Everything from before they achieved spaceflight." Nestrek looked confused but complied. The holographic display filled with information about human conflicts. Thousands of years of war. Weapons that range from sharpened sticks to nuclear bombs. Battle after battle, war after war, conflict after conflict. They fought each other constantly, Nestrek observed. Barbarians. This proves they are not ready for civilized space. But Thulvin was reading deeper. He saw patterns that disturbed him. Humans did not fight like Kresh, who valued honor and direct combat. They did not fight like Kyrix, who overwhelmed enemies with numbers. Humans fought differently. They used tricks and deception. They hid and ambushed. They turned anything and everything into weapons. "Request Counselor Vixara's presence," Thulvin said suddenly. "I need her expertise." An hour later, Vixara arrived with someone Thulvin did not expect. The being looked human but wore the robes of a council citizen. His identification tag read, Jinho Park, Cultural Analyst. "You brought a human?" Thulvin asked, his scales rippling with disapproval. "Jinho has lived on council worlds for 20 years, Vixara explained, her silver skin glowing softly in the dim light. "He left Earth before the war declaration. He understands his species better than any of us." Jinho bowed respectfully. He looked nervous, sweat on his forehead despite the cool temperature. "I volunteered to help. I do not want to see my birth planet destroyed, even if I no longer live there." Thulvin studied the human carefully. "Tell me why your people declared war. Tell me what your ambassador thinks he can accomplish." Jinho looked at the military displays, at the numbers showing Earth's pathetic military strength compared to the Council's might. He laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "You are asking the wrong question. You should be asking what humans are willing to do to win." "Explain," Vixara commanded gently. Jinho took a deep breath. "Most species in the Council have never experienced existential war. You fight for territory or resources or honor, but you surrender when the cost becomes too high. You have rules. You have codes. You value your lives and the lives of your warriors." He paused, looking each of them in the eye. "Humans do not fight that way. When we are truly threatened, when we believe our existence is at stake, we wage total war. We weaponize everything. We sacrifice everything, and we never, ever surrender." Nestrek made a dismissive gesture. "Propaganda. Every species claims they are fierce warriors. The numbers do not lie. They have 47 ships. You are not fighting 47 ships," Jinho said quietly. "You are fighting 8 billion humans who just learned they have a common enemy. Do you know what that means? For the first time in our history, we are not fighting each other. Every factory, every scientist, every engineer, every person who plays strategic games for entertainment, all of them will contribute to this war." He walked to the holographic controls and pulled up a file. "Let me show you something. This is the Second World War, fought on Earth about 2 centuries ago. Humans against humans. In 6 years, we built millions of vehicles, billions of weapons, and developed nuclear technology from nothing. We reshaped our entire civilization for war. Women who had never worked in factories became engineers. Children collected scrap metal. Old men who could barely walk volunteered for defense forces. Total mobilization." The display showed images of vast factories, assembly lines, cities transformed into war production centers. Numbers scrolled past showing production rates that seemed impossible for a pre-space civilization. "But they lost millions of people," Thulvin pointed out. "Their cities were destroyed. That proves they value survival and will surrender rather than face extinction." Jinho shook his head. "No, it proves the opposite. We took those losses and kept fighting. We fought until we achieved complete victory. Both sides fought until one side was utterly defeated. And the side that won? They did not just defeat their enemies. They dropped nuclear weapons on civilian cities to force surrender. That is what humans do when we wage war. We escalate until someone cannot fight anymore. Vixara had been silent, but now she spoke. Show them the resistance movements. Jinho pulled up more files. Throughout our history, whenever one group conquered another, the conquered people never simply accepted it. They formed resistance movements that lasted decades, sometimes generations. They used guerrilla tactics, terrorism, sabotage, assassination. They hid among civilians. They turned everyday objects into weapons. A farmer by day would be a fighter by night. A teacher would smuggle weapons. A child would carry messages. But those were primitive conflicts, Nestrak insisted. In space, such tactics are impossible. Are they? Jinho asked. How do you protect every supply ship, every cargo hauler, every civilian transport? Humans will hide weapons in cargo containers. We will program our mining drones to become suicide bombers. We will send ships filled with nothing but explosives, controlled remotely by people sitting safely on Earth, treating it like a video game. We will make every single asteroid field a potential ambush point. We will turn every piece of space debris into a weapon moving at relativistic speeds. Dolvin felt something he had not experienced in decades: doubt. Your own species has moved beyond such barbaric tactics. You live peacefully on council worlds. Jinho looked sad. I do, yes. But I am one person who chose to leave. The people who stayed on Earth? They chose to stay precisely because they value human independence above all else. Ambassador Doyun? He is not a peaceful diplomat. He is a former military strategist. The current Earth government is led by people who grew up studying human military history, who play strategy games for entertainment, who watch movies about underdog victories against impossible odds. He pulled up one final image. It showed a quote from an ancient human military leader. I fear all we have done is to awaken a sleeping giant and fill him with a terrible resolve. That quote is from an admiral who attacked a rival human nation, Jinho explained. He knew his surprise attack would not lead to quick victory. He knew it would enrage his enemy and lead to total war. He was right. His nation was completely defeated within 4 years, despite having a powerful military. Jinho pointed at the council chamber on the display. You just attacked humanity's pride. You demanded they kneel. You awakened the giant. Silence filled the security center. Nestrak looked uncertain for the first time. Tolvin's scales had turned a darker shade of green, indicating stress. Vixara spoke softly. I have studied Earth for 50 years. Everything Jinho says is true. Humans are individually weak. Their technology is primitive. Their ships are few. But they are the only species I have encountered who seem to prefer fighting against impossible odds. They celebrate their defeats almost as much as their victories, as long as they fought well. They tell stories about last stands and heroic sacrifices. They make entertainment about small groups defeating vast empires. So what do you recommend? Dolvin asked. Win quickly, Vixara said. Overwhelming force, immediate surrender terms, before they have time to mobilize. Or, she paused, find a diplomatic solution. Because if this turns into a prolonged conflict, if humans have time to adapt and innovate and mobilize, the cost will be far higher than anyone expects. Tholvan looked at the numbers again. 47 ships versus 100,000. It should be simple. It should be easy. But he could not shake the feeling that the council had made a terrible mistake. Commander Haijin Li floated in the zero-gravity command center of the carrier Indomitable, watching her tactical display with focused intensity. 3 months had passed since Ambassador Doyun's declaration of war. 3 months of frantic preparation, 3 months of building, planning, and training. Status report, she commanded. All swarm units ready for deployment, her tactical officer replied. Lieutenant Canman sat at his station, hands moving across holographic controls. We have 20,000 drones in launch tubes. Another 30,000 in reserve. Remote pilot connections are stable. No communication lag. Haijin allowed herself a small smile. The council expected a conventional naval battle. They were sending a fleet of 200 warships to crush humanity's pitiful 47-vessel navy. They expected honor. They expected rules. They expected a fair fight. They were about to learn that humans did not believe in fair fights. Begin deployment, Haijin ordered. Execute Swarm Doctrine Protocol 1. The Indomitable's launch tubes opened. Small craft, each no larger than a fighter, began streaming out into space. They did not look impressive. They were simple designs, built quickly in Earth's orbital factories and mining facilities. Some carried nuclear warheads. Others held kinetic weapons. Many were simply solid masses of metal designed to ram targets at high speed. What made them terrifying was not their individual power. It was their numbers, and the fact that each one was piloted remotely by a human sitting safely on Earth or Mars, or one of the colony stations. Swarm 1 is away, Kangman reported. Swarm 2 launching now. Swarm 3 ready in 30 seconds. Haijin watched as thousands of small craft spread out across the space around the Indomitable. They moved in coordinated patterns, like a school of fish or a flock of birds. The human pilots controlling them had trained for this, some of them professional military, others simply gamers who excelled at strategic combat simulations. Contact, the sensor officer announced. Council fleet detected. Distance 4 million kilometers. 200 ships, mostly cruiser and destroyer class. They are moving in standard battle formation. Haijin studied the enemy formation. It was textbook perfect. The larger ships in the center, smaller vessels protecting the flanks, scouts ranging ahead. Beautiful, organized, predictable. Send them into the asteroid field, Haijin commanded. Make them think we are hiding among the rocks. The swarm scattered, thousands of tiny craft disappearing into the nearby asteroid field. The Council fleet adjusted course to follow, moving cautiously now. They had probably detected the swarm on sensors, but could not understand what they were seeing. So many small craft, too small to be proper warships, but too numerous to ignore Dot in the Council flagship. Admiral Kronesh of the Kresh reviewed the sensor data with growing confusion. What are these small craft? Fighters? Escape pods? Unknown, sir, his sensor operator replied. They match no known human ship design. They are too small to carry proper weapon systems. Perhaps they are evacuating civilians, Kronesh suggested. Deploy interceptors. Capture a few for analysis. 6 Council fighters broke formation and accelerated toward the nearest swarm units. They closed quickly, their superior engines making the human craft seem slow and clumsy. Then the human drones did something unexpected. They did not run. They turned and accelerated directly toward the Council fighters, splitting into complex patterns that confused targeting computers. Sir, they are on collision course, the tactical officer warned. Invasive action, Kronesh ordered. 2 Council fighters managed to dodge. 4 did not. The human drones slammed into them at high speed. Nuclear weapons detonated. Kinetic impacts tore through armor. In 3 seconds, 4 Council fighters became expanding clouds of debris. What just happened? Kronesh demanded. They rammed us, sir. Those small craft are suicide drones. Each one is piloted remotely. They sacrificed them without hesitation. Kronesh felt a chill run down his spine. How many of these drones do they have? Sensors detect at least 50,000, sir. Possibly more hidden among the asteroids. 50,000 suicide weapons, each one controlled by a human who would not die if their craft was destroyed. Kronesh had studied warfare for 3 decades. He had commanded fleets in border disputes and pirate suppressions. Never had he faced anything like this. New formation, he ordered. Point defense systems to maximum. Prepare for saturation attack. The Council ships adjusted, their automated defenses coming online. Laser batteries and particle beams designed to shoot down missiles and torpedoes now targeted the incoming swarm. They destroyed hundreds of drones. Then thousands, but there were always more. For every drone destroyed, 3 more appeared from different angles. They came from behind asteroids. They drifted as inert debris until Council ships came close, then activated their engines. They attacked from above and below, from directions that left the Council ships unable to support each other with defensive fire. Haijin watched the battle from her command center, calm and focused. Swarm 4, target their supply ships. Swarm 5, focus on their communication relays. Swarm 6, pattern delta around their flagship. The human drones responded instantly. They did not hesitate. They did not retreat. Each pilot controlling a drone from Earth treated it like a video game, respawning with a new unit when one was destroyed. But this was not a game. The Council ships that exploded were real. The crew dying in the cold vacuum of space were real. Enemy flagship shields are weakening, Kangman reported. They are pulling back. Do not let them, Haijin commanded. All remaining swarms, full assault. Make them understand that retreat is not an option. 15,000 drones converged on the Council fleet. The defensive fire became desperate, wild. Council ships began breaking formation, each captain trying to save their own vessel. When coordination broke down, the swarm found its openings. A Council cruiser took 3 nuclear strikes to its engine section and went dark, drifting helplessly. A destroyer was hit by a mass of drones, carrying nothing but solid metal, the kinetic impacts punching through its hull like bullets through paper. The flagship itself, Admiral Kronesh's mighty command ship, was swarmed by hundreds of drones that attacked its communication arrays, leaving it blind and unable to coordinate with the rest of the fleet. Sir, we must retreat, Kronesh's tactical officer pleaded. We have lost 37 ships. The enemy has lost thousands of drones, but they keep coming. They have no fear of casualties. Kronesh understood now. The human drones were not just weapons. They were a message. Each one destroyed represented resources humans were willing to throw away. Each suicide attack demonstrated that humans valued victory over preservation. Full retreat, Kronesh ordered, his voice heavy with shame. All ships, maximum speed. Leave the damaged vessels. We cannot save them. The Council fleet fled, leaving behind 41 destroyed or disabled ships. The human swarm pursued for a while, destroying a few more stragglers, before finally breaking off the attack. Haijin watched them go, feeling no satisfaction. Casualty report. We lost 17,000 drones, Kangman reported. The Indomitable took some damage from debris, but nothing critical. Human casualties, 0. 0. That was the genius of the swarm doctrine. Humans could fight and die 1,000 times without actually dying. They could learn from each defeat and try again with a new drone. The Council ships, on the other hand, could only die once. Send a message to Earth Command, Haijin ordered. First engagement successful. Swarm doctrine proven effective. Recommend immediate expansion of drone production. As the Indomitable began recovering the remaining drones, Haijin thought about the Council Admiral's expression when he realized what he was fighting. Not soldiers who feared death. Not warriors bound by honor. Just angry humans with an unlimited supply of remote-controlled weapons and absolutely no qualms about using them. The Council had expected a war. Humans were giving them an extermination. Not of lives, but of the illusion that superior technology and numbers guaranteed victory. Across Council space, news of the battle spread. 41 ships lost to a force that should have been crushed easily. Military strategists scrambled to develop countermeasures. Politicians began questioning whether this war was worth the cost. And on Earth, 8 billion humans smiled. They had drawn first blood. They had proven that the mighty Galactic Council could bleed. Now it was time to show them that humans knew how to make wounds that never healed. Myra Choi sat in the private dining chamber of the Belker ambassador, carefully choosing her words. The room was designed for Belker comfort, with high humidity and warm temperatures that made Myra sweat beneath her formal diplomatic attire. Ambassador Realm sat across from her, his frog-like features showing cautious interest. "Your proposition is dangerous," Realm said, his throat sac expanding and contracting with each word. "You asked me to consider information that could be seen as espionage against the Council. My people have been loyal members for 3,000 years. Myra nodded respectfully. "I understand your concern, Ambassador. I am not asking you to betray the Council. I am simply offering information that your government should have access to. After all, the Belker Collective contributes 12% of the Council's military funding, correct?" Realm's eyes narrowed. "How did you know that figure?" "It is not public information. We humans are very good at finding information," Myra replied with a small smile. She slid a data chip across the table. This chip contains financial records from the Council Treasury. Nothing classified. Just careful analysis of public budget reports and trade agreements. "I think you will find it interesting." Realm stared at the chip but did not touch it. "What am I supposed to find?" "The truth about where your contributions actually go," Myra said. "The Kresh Empire, the Vilmari Collective, and the Ral Dominion control 68% of Council votes, despite representing only 32% of member species. They use this control to direct resources to themselves. Your funding builds their warships, protects their trade routes, and subsidizes their colonies. Meanwhile, the Belker Collective receives a fraction of those benefits, despite paying far more than your fair share." Realm's throat sac pulsed rapidly, a sign of agitation. "These are serious accusations." "They are facts," Myra corrected gently. "Humans have no stake in Council internal politics. We simply notice patterns. We also notice that this war is costing your people greatly. Your mining operations near human space have been shut down. Your trade ships are being diverted to supply military operations. Your economy is suffering for a war that benefits the 3 dominant species far more than it benefits the Belker Collective." Realm finally picked up the chip, turning it over in his webbed fingers. "Even if what you say is true, what do you expect me to do? The Belker cannot stand against the entire Council." "We do not expect you to," Myra assured him. "We simply expect you to share this information with other species who might also be questioning the war's cost. The Talim, the Grenker, the Yish, all mid-tier Council members who contribute resources but receive little benefit. If enough species begin demanding accountability, the Council will have to listen." She stood to leave, smoothing down her jacket. "We humans learned something long ago, Ambassador. Unity is powerful, but unity based on lies and exploitation is fragile. One strong push and it shatters." After Myra left, Realm sat alone in his chamber, staring at the data chip. His duty was clear. He should report this conversation to Council security immediately. The human was clearly attempting to divide the Council from within, but curiosity won. He inserted the chip into his personal reader, telling himself he would only verify that the information was false before reporting it. 3 hours later, He was still reading. And everything my ray said was true. Halfway across the galaxy, in a secure facility on Mars, Taiwan Song wiped sweat from his forehead and stepped back from the massive quantum gate assembly. The device hummed with barely contained energy, its crystalline core pulsing with strange light that hurt to look at directly. "Final calibration complete," he announced to his team. "We are ready for the first live test." His assistant, Sumi, checked her instruments. All safety protocols in place. Emergency shutdown ready. Beginning power-up sequence. The quantum gate had been humanity's secret project since before the war declaration. While the Council focused on the drone swarms, Earth's best scientists had been working on something far more dangerous: instantaneous communication across any distance. Not faster than light travel, which was still beyond human capability, but instant coordination that would make human forces truly terrifying. The gate activated. For a moment, nothing visible happened. Then Taiwan's communicator chirped. He checked it and allowed himself a tired smile. "We have confirmation from the test gate in the Jupiter colonies. Zero lag. Perfect synchronization." Sumi whooped in celebration, but Taiwan remained focused. "Begin construction of the military network. I want a gate installed on every carrier, every major base, and every colony within 2 months. Once we are fully networked, the swarm will become something the Council cannot counter." He imagined what would happen once the network was operational. Human forces could coordinate attacks across dozens of star systems simultaneously. Drones destroyed in one location could be instantly replaced by new units piloted from Earth. Intelligence gathered anywhere would be immediately available everywhere. The swarm would become a true hive mind, making decisions faster than any Council commander could react. But Taiwan also knew the danger. If the Council discovered the quantum gate network before it was complete, they would do everything possible to destroy it. The gates were humanity's greatest advantage and their greatest vulnerability. In her office on the Council homeworld, Councilor Vixara reviewed intelligence reports with growing alarm. The war was now in its 7th month. The Council had won some battles, but the cost was staggering. For every human drone destroyed, humans simply built more. Their production facilities seemed limitless. Their willingness to sacrifice resources was beyond anything the Council had anticipated. But what worried Vixara more was the pattern she detected in recent human fleet movements. Ships were gathering in strange locations, not for attacks, but for construction. Something was being built, something that required significant resources and protection. She enhanced the images from Council surveillance drones. There, in orbit around Mars, she saw it. A massive structure unlike anything in the human arsenal. Its purpose was not immediately clear, but its design incorporated principles from quantum physics that the Council itself had only recently begun to explore. Vixara ran simulations, analyzed the structure's energy signatures, and cross-referenced them with theoretical research. When the answer came, she felt genuine fear for the first time in her long life. Instantaneous communication. If humans completed that network, if they could coordinate their swarms across light years with no delay, they would not just be a nuisance. They would be a genuine threat to Council supremacy. A species that could strike anywhere, anytime, with perfect coordination and no fear of death. Would be unstoppable. She immediately composed a private message to Ambassador Doyen, using channels that no other counselor would detect. The message was simple: we need to talk, before it is too late for both our peoples. Do-hyun received the message while reviewing casualty reports. Not human casualties. Humans still had not lost a single life in combat. But Council casualties were mounting. Thousands of aliens dead, billions of credits in destroyed ships and infrastructure, and the war showed no signs of ending. He knew what the quantum gates meant. Once operational, humanity would have the power to wage war across the entire galaxy simultaneously. The Council would have no choice but to surrender or face endless conflict that would bankrupt their civilization. But Doyun also knew the danger of total victory. If humanity crushed the Council completely, other species would unite against them. Humans would become the new threat, the new empire that needed to be stopped. An eternal enemy in a hostile galaxy. Perhaps it was time for a different approach. Not surrender, but something the galaxy had not seen. A peace built on mutual respect rather than dominance. He composed his reply to Vixara. I agree. But we meet as equals or we do not meet at all. Across Council space, cracks continued to spread. The Belker Collective shared Murray's information with allied species. Questions about war funding and resource distribution became open debates. Mid-tier species began demanding reforms. The three dominant powers tried to maintain control, but their grip was weakening. The war was no longer just military. It had become economic, political, and philosophical. Humans were not just fighting with drones and weapons. They were fighting with information, diplomacy, and the simple truth that even the mightiest alliance was only as strong as its members' willingness to sacrifice for it. And humans had proven one thing beyond doubt. They were willing to sacrifice everything. The neutral station floated in empty space, halfway between Council territory and human colonies. It was a small facility designed for exactly this kind of secret meeting. Do-hyun Kim arrived first, accompanied only by Murray Choi. No guards. No military escort. Just two diplomats trusting that their enemies would honor the temporary truce. Council of Vixara arrived 30 minutes later. She came alone, her silver skin dimmed with fatigue. The ancient Hrao looked every one of her 10,000 years as she settled into the chair across from Do-hyun. She said simply, "You asked for equals," Do-hyun replied. "That is all we ever wanted. Recognition that humanity deserves a voice in galactic affairs, not orders to follow." Vixara studied the human ambassador. 9 months of war had changed him. He looked older, more tired, but also more confident. The war had proven his gamble correct. Your quantum gate network is almost complete. We know this. When it becomes operational, you will be able to coordinate attacks across the entire galaxy simultaneously. The Council cannot win against such a capability. Diane did not deny it. True, but completing the network will take another 3 months. In that time, the Council could destroy Earth itself. Your fleets still outnumber ours significantly. If you commit to total war, accept massive casualties, you could still burn our homeworld to ash before we can stop you. Also true, Vixara acknowledged. So we face mutual destruction. You will destroy our fleets and cripple our economy. We will destroy your homeworld and scatter your species. Everyone loses. Myre watched the exchange nervously. These two were discussing genocide and economic collapse, like they were negotiating trade agreements. But she understood. Both sides had to acknowledge the reality before they could move past it. What do you propose? Do-hyun asked. Vixara pulled out a data tablet and slid it across the table. This is a draft treaty created by a small group of counselors who understand that this war benefits no one. The 3 dominant species still demand your complete surrender, but 42 other species have indicated they would support a different arrangement. Do-hyun read through the treaty carefully. Myre watched his expression change from skepticism to surprise to something that might have been hope. Full sovereignty for Earth and all human colonies, he read aloud. A permanent seat in a reformed galactic assembly, equal voting rights regardless of species size or military power, mandatory transparency in council finances and resource allocation, prohibition on forced technology sharing or cultural assimilation. He looked up at Vixara. This is everything we went to war for. Why would the Council agree to this? Because the alternative is worse, Vixara said bluntly. Your war has exposed cracks in the council that have existed for millennia. The Belker Collective is demanding financial reforms. 20 other species are questioning why they contribute resources but receive no benefit. The three dominant powers could force everyone to keep fighting, but their control is weakening. If this war continues, the entire council structure might collapse. She leaned forward, her ancient eyes intense. You humans showed us something we had forgotten. Unity based on forced compliance is not unity at all. It is tyranny wearing a civilized mask. Real unity requires consent, requires equality, requires each member to feel valued and respected. So the council will accept humans as equals because they fear us, Doyun said. No, Vixara corrected. Some will accept you out of fear. Others will accept you out of respect for what you achieved. A few will accept you because they believe it is right. But in the end, the reason does not matter. What matters is that the galaxy will be different after this war. Better, perhaps. Dohyun looked at Mireille. She could see the question in his eyes. Should they trust this? Could they afford not to? What about the quantum gate technology? Mireille asked. The treaty requires us to share it with all council species. In exchange for guaranteed access to council faster-than-light technology, Vixara pointed out. You get to keep your military gates, but you must provide civilian versions that all species can use. Instantaneous communication across the galaxy will revolutionize trade, diplomacy, and cultural exchange. It will bind the galaxy together in ways that were never possible before. It was a clever compromise. Humans would maintain their military advantage through the quantum gates they had already built. But by sharing the basic technology, they would create a new foundation for galactic civilization. Every species would depend on human innovation, which meant every species would have a stake in humanity's continued existence and prosperity. There is one more thing, Dohyun said, pulling out his own data tablet. The swarm. You want us to dismantle it? Vixara nodded. 90% of your drone fleet must be decommissioned. The galaxy cannot have a permanent force of millions of suicide weapons hanging over it. The fear alone would destabilize everything. We keep 10%, Dohyun countered, as a deterrent, to remind the galaxy that humans do not bluff, do not surrender, and do not forget. Agreed, Vixara said immediately. She had expected him to demand more. 10% is sufficient for defense and small enough to not be seen as an existential threat. They spent the next 6 hours negotiating details. Mireille documented everything, making sure the language was precise and could not be exploited by either side. When they finished, they had a treaty that would fundamentally restructure galactic governance. Will the Council accept this? Dohyun asked. The Kresh Empire, the Volmari Collective, and the Harl Dominion will oppose it, Vixara admitted. They will argue, threaten, and demand modifications. But they are 3 voices against 800. The smaller species now understand that they have power if they unite. Your war taught them that. And if the 3 dominant powers refuse? If they try to continue the war? Vixara smiled, an expression that looked strange on her alien features. Then the other species will side with humanity. Not out of love, but out of self-interest. A reformed galactic government where even small species have real power is better than the current system. You gave them something to believe in, something worth fighting for. 3 months later, Haijin Li stood on the bridge of the Indomitable, watching her swarm being decommissioned. Thousands of drones floated in organized formations as they were systematically shut down and dismantled. 90% of her fleet, the weapon that had terrified the galaxy, was being reduced to scrap metal. It feels wrong, Kanman said quietly. We won the war. Why do we have to give up our advantage? Because we did not win the war, Haijin corrected him. We survived it. There is a difference. Winning would have meant destroying the council, enslaving other species, becoming the new tyrants. We did not fight for domination. We fought for respect. She gestured at the remaining 10% of the swarm, still active and ready. These drones are enough. Enough to defend ourselves. Enough to remind the galaxy what happens if anyone tries to enslave us again. But not enough to make us the threat we were fighting against. Kan-Ming looked uncertain, but he nodded. What happens now? We are part of this galactic assembly, but will the other species trust us? Some will not, Hyjin said. But they will all respect us, and that is enough. In the new galactic assembly, Ambassador Do-hyun took his seat alongside representatives from 847 other species. The chamber looked the same, but everything had changed. Voting was now equal. Finances were transparent. Species could not be forced to accept terms. They did not agree to dot. It was messy. It was slow. It was frustrating. It was democracy, and it was beautiful in its chaos. During the first major vote, a trade dispute between the Kresh Empire and several smaller species, Do-hyun watched as species that had never dared challenge the dominant powers now openly argued against them. The Kresh representative looked furious, as his proposal was voted down by a coalition of smaller species working together. After the session, Vixara approached Do-hyun. Satisfied? Getting there, Do-hyun admitted. How long until the dominant species accept the new reality? Years, perhaps decades, Vixara said. But they will accept it eventually, because the alternative is returning to war, and no one wants that. You humans proved that war is too costly, too destructive, too unpredictable. Do-hyun returned to his office and found Mireille waiting with a report. The final casualty numbers from the war, she said, handing him the data tablet. Do-hyun read through them. Council losses: 11,342 ships destroyed, over 2 million military personnel killed. Economic damage in the trillions of credits. Human losses: 0 combat deaths, though 17 factory workers had died in industrial accidents during the rush production of swarm drones. We fought a war and no one died on our side, Mireille said quietly. Is that something to be proud of? No, Do-hyun said. It is something to be grateful for, and something to remember. The next species that challenges humanity should know that we can wage war without sacrificing our people. That makes us more dangerous, not less. He walked to his window and looked. Out at Earth, visible as a blue marble in the distance. 8 billion humans down there, most of them unaware of how close they had come to extinction. Most of them simply grateful that the war was over and life could return to normal. But in his desk drawer, Do-hyun kept a small remote,